Raider Nation, what's going on? It's Mitchell Renz here, host of the Raiders Report, and we're going to talk about Derek Carr today. I can't tell you the last time that I pulled up to this show wanting to talk about Derek Carr. Not like it hasn't randomly popped up on some of our live shows, which we know that the Derek Carr conversations always come up because this team's been looking for a quarterback. And I don't know if you've seen some of the videos of Geno Smith. I don't know if dude is not hitting a target yet, always putting the ball in the right spot. But we are going to talk about DC today, and all I ask is this. Let's be normal human beings, and let's have a good conversation. No need to throw Carr under the bus. No need to throw anybody's opinions under the bus. This is just a usual conversation, and it is right now the poll at the very top of the show. But my question here to the nation is this. We already got 350 people pulling up today. Give me a yes. Give me a no. Should the Raiders try to sign Derek Carr to a one-day contract so he can retire a Raider? Over the weekend, DC announced his retirement from the National Football League. He thanked the Raiders, Mr. Davis. He thanked the New Orleans Saints. And I reached out to a few people that could give me some more information on some of the things to know regarding this. And I'm going to share that today here on the Raiders Report. But I just want to know what the nation thinks, because I put out a tweet over the weekend, and I said that if I was the Raiders, I would sign Derek Carr to a one-day contract so he can retire a Raider. Whether you like DC or not, or you thought he was good enough to be a quarterback, that's a totally different conversation. But I really don't think that there's anybody out there that doesn't think that Derek Carr is just a really good dude. And because he's a really good dude, and I know he played for the Saints the last 2 years, DC is going to go down in his mind as a Raider, and I personally know that. And because he was the face of a franchise for 9+ seasons, and because, one of my biggest gripes that people have of me is they think that I don't like Derek Carr. What? Right? Yerk World says you hated DC. And that's probably one of my biggest pet peeves that Raider fans think, because there's a big difference between saying, hey, this guy's just not good enough to be the quarterback of this football team anymore when you considering what you would have to pay him, and then just thinking that he's a good dude. Like, I thought he was a good dude. I also have always said that if there's one player that really helped this show grow, it was Derek Carr. My appreciation from DC runs deep, and I also know that Derek knows that. I mean, I don't know if y'all remember, like 3 years ago, Carr literally said on Twitter, I'm going to block everybody that I want to block. The Carr family's got me blocked, but DC never blocked me as far as I'm concerned. But I do think at the end of the day, this is going to be a fun conversation, and if anybody wants to get some questions in on Derek, I'm going to allow it today. Today is going to be a little bit of conversation around Derek Carr, but that's also not going to be the only thing that we talk about. I also want to break down some interesting rumors on Asante Samuel Jr. Trey Hendrickson has been in the news today. I had a few Raiders fans ask if the Raiders should try to go out and get Hendrickson, because if he wants a new deal, doesn't sound like the Bengals are going to give him one. Could you potentially have an opportunity where you're buying low? I'll talk about that on today's episode. I also wanted to break down some Raiders rookie minicamp winners and losers. I reached out to some of the players. I talked to some of the guys that were, actually at the practices, and just hearing some of the thoughts, some of the notes, also from people that were, in the building at the facility, kind of analyzing what some of the players are looking at. So we'll look at some of the winners and losers on offense and defense, and I'll be honest with you, I'm not going to spend too much time on the loser section. Like, there's a few names in there, and as soon as y'all see the names, you're going to go, yeah, all right, that makes some sense to me, because I don't think that that's what rookie minicamp's about. Rookie minicamp, I think, is about seeing the good in all these guys, and at the end of the day, this is a team that's really getting close, and I like to hear already some of the rookies have told me this is going to be a really close group, which is what we want, which is what the Raiders fans want, which is what I think this coaching staff wants from top to bottom. We got 552 people ready and eager to watch the Raiders Report. I will say this, I got 2 segments today. Woo. We are going to be live tomorrow, so we don't usually go live on Wednesdays, and we're also going to be live on Friday for our Madden Sim. So you're going to get 2 segments today, but that's because you're going to get an extra live show tomorrow for the NFL schedule release, and then the next, I'd say 2 videos that I'll do probably over the next 24 to 48 hours. The Raiders schedule breakdown, and then also my record prediction for the Silver and Black. What up, Reb? Knicks dub, Warriors L, Laker fan. Yeah, man, I'll tell you this. Being able to watch both those games last night.
Oh, yeah.
The fact that the Knicks have come back 3 times, down 14 points, very impressive. The Celtics folded. Very unfortunate injury situation with Jason Tatum, but let's not get it twisted. The Knicks were winning that game way before the Tatum injury ended up happening. And the Steph Curry injury, it sucks because he's never dealt with a hammy before, and it's really unfortunate because the Warriors just don't even look like a playoff caliber team, quite frankly, without Steph Curry, because Curry just opens up so many different things. He was the quarterback, if you will, of that entire offense. And you got guys that aren't shooters trying to create shots. You got guys trying to create off the dribble that are used to being able to be spot-up shooters. That series has totally been ruined by the Curry injury.
And Rebel, I actually had a question ready for you.
Okay.
Because we knew you were going to come in with some NBA questions, Rebel. You're a Chat Sports real one. So
Absolutely.
This one is for Rebel. If anybody else wants to answer as well, you can
We'll
do
allow
so.
it. We'll allow it.
We'll allow you, but the only person I need to answer this question down below, his name is Rebel Montana.
It rhymes with Bebel Bobdana. Who would you rather have, Luka Doncic, LD, or Cooper Flag type CF?
Other people can answer, but I need Rebel to get in the comment section right now.
I'll tell you this. Watching the NBA draft lottery last night, watching Coop, because Coop before the day started was like, no chance the Mavs are going to get it. 1.8% chance of them getting the number 1 overall pick. And according to reports, it sounds like that the Mavs will end up taking Cooper Flag with the number 1 pick. They're not going to entertain trade ideas. But let's just say you were building an NBA franchise right now. Would you rather have Luka Doncic where he's at going forward?
With his contract.
Okay, with his contract, sure, let's go for it. Or Cooper Flag right now where he's going.
With a rookie contract.
With a rookie contract. Like, who do you think, honestly, in the next 10 to 15 years? Like, because to me, I still 10 years, 15 years. I don't know.
So it's hard. So in 5 years, my heart still tells me Luka's going to be better than Cooper Flag.
I agree.
In 10 years, give me Flag over Doncic.
I also wonder this, though, because I don't think anybody would debate that Luka is the more talented player. But I am a big believer when the best player on your team is, let's be honest, a little bit lazy. And I think Luka is a little bit lazy, and I don't know if he would admit that, but I think his ceiling is a lot higher if he put in the time and the effort. Like, if he had that Max Crosby mentality, Luka could legitimately be the best player in the NBA. Cooper Flag, I don't think, has the talent that Luka does, but I do think Cooper's kind of got that dog in him. And when you saw how much better he got from high school to where he started at Duke to where how good he was by the end of that season, he was pretty damn spectacular. Luka might be the better player, but I do wonder if Cooper Flag is the type of guy that makes a team better.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have to see.
Time's going to tell.
We'll see if Cooper Flag plays championship-level defense. Because apparently that's the biggest need in Dallas right now is championship-level defense.
Hey, we'll see.
Can't win it with Luka.
I'm seeing some Luka Doncic's come in, though, from Emmanuel, from Raider Nation 80. I see a CF from David, Robert. I mean, I'll tell you this right now. Like, even if the Mavs get Cooper Flag, the Luka trade was still a bad trade. Like, I don't want to hear that.
Worth it.
Totally worth it. What up, Nav? If DC wants a one-day contract to retire a Raider, he absolutely should be afforded that. Once a Raider, always a Raider. By definition, 9 years our quarterback one will also be good for the team.
I actually, go ahead and answer this question.
I'm going to take a deep dive on a lot of this today just because the amount of times that I was asked over the weekend, and I got some questions this weekend, and it was Mother's Day weekend, and I really pride myself on always being available to the nation. But, let's just be honest. There's certain weekends that we're going to spend time with our families. We're going to spend time with the moms. We're going to spend time with significant others, and that was one of those weekends for me. So I knew when I had the opportunity to talk about this, I was going to talk about it yesterday, but because the Raiders went out and signed 6 players and they cut 6 guys, plans changed a little bit today and yesterday. But I did want to be able to take a deep dive into this, and I don't want to give away too many of my thoughts, but I agree with you, Navman. The problem is I don't know if it's even allowed to happen, is how I'll phrase it, because we'll get into some of the things that I'm going to talk about today. What up, Rebel? Did you see the teaser on Raiders Broncos Week 1? Did I see the teaser? No, I'll be real. I was trying to get ready for the show. I wouldn't be shocked if it was Raiders-Broncos week 1. I mean, go back and look at all the Raiders week 1 games since 2019. 2019 was what? The Denver Broncos. 2020, I believe, I'm trying to think who that was. 2021 was the Baltimore Ravens. The Chargers have been, the week 1 game, I think, 2 years since 2019. And then, last season. Like, the AFC West has been a common week 1 game. And then here's the thing. If this is the week 1 game, I'd bet my bottom dollar that the Raiders and Broncos are going to play week 18 because that's what this organization has done. It's what the NFL has done. Whoever the Raiders have played week 1, they play in week 18. I mean, it's been like that 4 out of the last 5 years, I would say, off the top of my noggin. But if you guys do want to hang out with Chugs and I tomorrow, we're going to be live for 4+ hours breaking down the Raiders schedule release. And again, we're going to go live at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, 1 p.m. Pacific. The actual schedule does end up getting released at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. But the last 3 years, we've been able to get the Raiders schedule before it actually gets released. So if you want to see who the Raiders are playing before 8 p.m., hit that subscribe button, tune in to tomorrow. Let's go to YRK World. I'd bring him back, man, is a Raider for life. I know Carr didn't win us in any important games, but he always gave us his all on the field. Carr needs to retire a Raider.
And I think that's the same exact sentiment that you were just kind of talking about, that regardless of the actual outcomes on the field, like, he's still
a very well-respected player.
Respected.
And, even go back and look at how many Raiders players that when Carr announced his retirement, Colton Miller showed him his flowers. Max Crosby showed him his flowers. And, those are the two that I get it, played with DC, but, you don't have to do that. You know what I mean? Like, Max Crosby doesn't have to do that. Colton Miller doesn't have to do that. I believe both Miller and Max are stand-up human beings, and it doesn't surprise me that they do that. But I really, truly believe that Derek Carr is one of the more respected players in the National Football League because he's a good guy. Is he a winner at the quarterback level? No, we never won a playoff game, though. Again, I think the hardest part about the Carr conversation is the what if. Because we all know that DC, if he doesn't get hurt, looks totally different, has a very different career, and I think he's a no-doubt Hall of Famer. Do I think Derek Carr is a Hall of Famer now? No, I do not. Do I think he's a Raider great? Yes, I do. But you got to be able to go out and you got to be able to win, especially when you are made the highest paid quarterback in the NFL, which is what Derek Carr was made. At one point, the highest paid QB in the National Football League. What are you working on over there? Look at this. This is Chugs in a green screen.
Yeah. Still could use a little work.
We're working on it. But hey, we are hiring, and maybe that's something that the new guy can work on.
Yeah.
Chatsports.com/Raiders producer.
I did want to ask you one question, a quick debate, if you will. Because I'll put the link to his tweet in the chat. One of our buddies here at Chat Sports, Harrison Graham, made a video earlier today basically on a what if the NFL had a draft lottery.
Oh, shit. Okay.
Is that something that you would want to entertain, or what are your thoughts on the draft lottery per se? And if you don't know what we're talking about, in the NBA, the worst team doesn't just get the first overall pick. It's basically each team has a certain odds. So, like, the worst 4 teams all have, like, a 15% chance to get the number 1 overall pick. So no pick is guaranteed. It's all up to chance on the top 10 picks. Is that something you would want to entertain?
I mean, from the content standpoint, sure, right?
Let me know why for yes and for no. Would you want a draft lottery in the NFL? Why for yes and for no?
I would want it. I wouldn't mind it. How about that? Like, I think it'd be fun. It would definitely prevent teams from tanking, though. If we just go back and look at this past season, we were talking about, tanking for Shador. He went in the 5th round, and just sometimes it's funny because things always change. And, the Raiders winning those games against the Jags and some of those meaningless games that they did win. And we were all sitting here going, oh, man, that's going to screw us out on a quarterback. And maybe it did. Maybe it didn't. Maybe the Raiders wouldn't have gotten Cam Ward. I don't necessarily know. But it would be fun. Like, there's no doubt about it. It would be fun. I guess my only fear is there's a lot of people that think that the NBA draft is rigged.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't want to hear that because I will say this.
As soon as the Raiders get a number 1 overall pick, it's rigged!
I'd be honestly concerned about like the Cowboys.
Could you imagine
the Chiefs?
The first year they do it, the Cowboys have like the 10th best odds and they get the number 1 overall pick.
I had this debate literally yesterday with somebody that was asking me about the NBA lottery, and I go, I would rather I love the NFL draft and what it is, and they do such a good job making a production out of it.
Yeah.
That is more important to me than like if it would be the NFL draft lottery. But at the same time, it would be fun. Like you can't tell me if we were sitting up here and the Raiders had the 6th best odds to have the number 1 pick. Dude, it'd be electric television for that one day.
Dude.
Electric. I was watching Coop, and it was so good because he never thought he had a chance. And then what was also funny is I was watching another live stream, and Roley, the Heat guy, the Heat would have had the Mavs pick if they wouldn't have made the playoffs, but they decided to make a pointless playoff series, and they potentially lost that number 1 pick. I don't know.
Because that's another weird thing is like people are like, oh, it'll keep teams from tanking. I actually wonder if it'll do the opposite because if you're a team that has a chance to be a wild card team, and I know the NFL is way different, way, way different, but say you're a team where you know you're not as good as the other teams and you're going to be like a 7th seed in the wild card.
Yeah.
Do you maybe instead be like, hey, maybe we'll, maybe not try our hard? I know it's very far-fetched, but maybe try to not make the playoffs for a chance to jump up into a top 5 pick?
I mean, I think this would be fun
like
where
if you're the Steelers who don't have a quarterback.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, do we make the playoffs with Mason Rudolph or do we try to lose a couple and have a chance to jump up in the NFL draft lottery?
What if, because I feel like there's always the argument of there's certain teams that are playing more football, and because football is such a physical sport, like, a team like Kansas City that's played so much more football over the past 3-4 years than every other team because they're making it deep in the playoffs, and I get it. That might not be a big deal to everybody, but I think that there are players that talk about just the extra, work that it puts on their body. What if there was like a loser's bracket, kind of like fantasy football, where you have their teams competing for the title, and then the bottom, let's call them 10 teams, 8 teams, where they play for the number 1 pick?
But I would like the bottom 4 teams.
Bottom 4 teams?
It's just
and they're just playing for the number 1. But you have to win to get the number 1 pick.
Yeah, 2 and 2.
Like, make it mean something.
Yeah, 2 and 2. The winners play each other for the number 1 pick. And then
dude, that'd be electric.
The loser gets picked number 2, and out of the 2 teams that lost, it's just worst record gets the number 3 and number 4.
That sounds fun to me. Like, I am all on board for extra competition, and I'm also on board for never having to go through a Raiders season like we just went through. I don't know if I can do it again. It was terrible.
I know we have the Pro Bowl week before the Super Bowl.
Okay.
Get rid of the Pro Bowl. Just have that as the number 1 seed or the number 1 pick championship.
Let's do it
before the Super Bowl.
I'm not kidding you when I say this. The viewership on that game would be just as good as a playoff game.
Could you imagine?
It would be just as good of a playoff game. Could you imagine
for next year the 2 teams that are playing for possibly Arch Manning?
Let's do it. I mean, that sounds like must-watch television. Like, I can remember 2 years ago when it was the Texans and the Bears. And I can remember watching Harry stream because if they would have lost, they'd get the number 1 pick.
And the Bears were watching, it was the Texans versus the Colts.
Oh, that's right.
And if the Texans would have lost, they would have gotten the number 1 overall pick, which turned out to be Bryce Young.
But Lovie Smith ended up
winning that game against the Colts. And funny enough, the guy who I was talking about earlier this week, Davis Mills, he threw a touchdown with 20 seconds left, like a 4th and 13 touchdown from the 20-yard line to tie it up.
I'm all about competition, and I'm all about if players are going to be. And again, I love the fact that you got players that are making money, and I think it's crazy. Don't get me wrong, that the amount of money that they're making, but if you got guys making millions upon millions upon millions of dollars, then I do think that we got to treat this a little bit more like an entertainment. And I really do think if you had the worst teams in the NFL play a playoff for the number 1 pick, it would totally smash, like there would be no tank talk at all, which I actually would like, because from a Raiders fan, and let me know down below, comment me if you agree with this, How many Raiders fans last season would put themselves in a mental pretzel every single game day being like, it's game day, I can't wait to watch the Raiders, and then you're like, well, it's actually maybe better if they lose. And then you're sit there on the game, and there's times where we were fired up when they were doing well, but then you're like, well, it's actually probably better if they'd be losing. You'd get rid of all that. You just root for your team every week.
We got a lot of hate during that Jags game.
Yeah, I hated doing it too, though. There was being a Raiders fan last season was one of the biggest mental pretzels I have ever gone through.
Could you imagine if at the end of the year the Raiders had a chance to play for the number 1 pick?
Sign me up. It would have been so much fun. I see Quiet Storm, Patrick Roche, what up, what up? Radar Nation 80. How's it going, Chris? Bridget Rivera, messed with my mental health. I feel that.
Low key, though, could you imagine a game like that might save guys' careers? That could save, an Antonio Pierce. If he's, awful season, horrible, still the head coach towards the end, but his team rallies together to play and win the number 1 pick.
Maybe. I mean, one game, the Christmas game where the Raiders beat the Chiefs, I am convinced that's why AP got the job. I mean, don't get me wrong. The Raiders looked a lot better once they fired McDaniels. I think that was just naturally going to happen. But AP got his job because they beat the Chiefs on Christmas. And I don't think that you can convince me otherwise there. Though, Kel here, this is how I felt all last year. Kel's picture is him watching Raiders games every Sunday. Or he's got one hell of a happy ending. Carr retired. He wasn't released. Does that interfere with him retiring a Raider because of his contract with the Saints? Yes. And again, we'll kind of break it all down. It's still not impossible, and I think that's the big underlining message here. It's not impossible, but it is not as easy as just the Raiders reaching out to Derek Carr and saying, hey, do you want to retire a Raider? It would take 2 to tango, and the other one would be the New Orleans Saints. And because of that, and I'll kind of get into all the reasons why I don't think it'll happen, but I'll also tell you why I would like for it to happen. What up, Dalroy? DC, 6 head coaches with Raiders in 9 years. Raiders failed Derek Carr. DC did not fail LV. DC is class. Bring him back to the Raiders office. See, and I think this is actually the problem, though, with a lot of Raiders fans. And yes, I do think that the Raiders did fail Derek Carr. But I don't think it's fair for any Raider fan out there to say that the Raiders failed DC because the Raiders made Derek Carr the highest paid player in the National Football League. And I get at the time it's $125 million. It's amazing how much contracts have changed. But if you're made the highest paid player in your sport, quite frankly, and this is how I think. If you think differently, it's totally fine. But when you're made the highest paid player in your sport, that to me is saying, I don't care what your head coach situation is. I don't care what your OC situation is. I don't care what your defense situation is. You are good enough to carry your football team no matter what. That's how I think of it. And because the Raiders were unable to win, and I get it, bad defenses, a lot of bad draft picks, and Derek had a stacked hand against him. I don't disagree with that. But to say this, and this is I think the problem with the Derek Carr conversation, I would just say take off your beer goggles and put on normal glasses because Derek was a really, really good quarterback. But to say that DC did not fail the Raiders, not winning a single playoff game after being paid the most money by any player in the NFL at that time, I think that is foolish, right? And I personally would say that that's foolish. But both are true. Both are true. What up, John? What the F, Chugs? Are you leaving Mitch?
No!
Chugs is still hanging out here. We're just adding more to the family. We're trying to be able to create more content. That's what this thing's all about. And, I'm a competitive person, and I always want to get 1% better. Chugs and I, we're always trying to think of ways that we can make this show a lot more fun and entertaining. And I know we always say we don't keep the supers. We don't keep the Venmos. We've been saving up money for a while to be able to have enough money to say, you know what, we can go pay somebody to help make this thing better. To be honest, it's really cool feeling knowing that we've had a lot of people apply for the job. It's also a really cool feeling to know that I'm going to give somebody an opportunity to go chase their dream. Because I can remember when I got my opportunity to start writing some fantasy football articles. I can remember my opportunity when I got to start talking at Chat Sports. I was fired up about it. And we're going to be able to give somebody an opportunity to chase their dream. And whether you work here for 10 years, whether you work here for 2 years, you're going to leave here and you're going to learn a lot no matter what. And
you're going to like the way you look.
I guarantee it. Also, coming up here on today's show, since we are doing only 2 segments today, I did want to do a duck race. So if you want to get in, it's a $10 Venmo. And at the very, very end of today's stream, we're going to give away some money. So if you want to get in, you scan that QR code. You can add me as a friend at MitchellRenz365. I'll also say this. If you won anything during the NFL draft, I have messaged you, and this is your final chance to claim your prizes. Because there's a lot of prizes, quite frankly, that have gone unclaimed, and I have reached out to a lot of people, but, I can't just sit around and wait for you to answer me 5 months down the road. I'm telling everybody right now, if you want something during the NFL draft, check your Venmo. I commented on something, and we got to get some details rolling, because I don't want somebody that won an Ashton Genty jersey to not realize that they won an Ashton Genty jersey. Come on, man. Let's get it going. Quiet Storm says, I'll take the jersey. Quiet Storm, all right, I'll make you a deal, Quiet Storm.
Keep that in mind.
I'll definitely keep that in mind. Though, what is a Quiet Storm?
And the thunder.
What is a Quiet Storm? I don't even think it's possible.
It's how you feel when you chew 5 gum.
Stimulate your senses.
Well,
the one that I remember is
nobody's definitely gonna clip that.
The one that I remember is they're just like laying down, and it almost looks like they're like laying on a ripple of water, and it's raining, and they're sitting there just vibrating. Stimulate your senses. So I got some new 5 gum for the office, or for our table, I guess you could say. Our table is me, Chugs, Reed, and Cullen. You guys have seen those guys from time to time. And I told Alex, I was like, can you get some gum for me? Well, she got the world's largest pack of gum.
She got the 89 pack.
I mean, we're good for 5 months. Like, I'm not kidding you. We could chew a piece of gum every single day, and we're good for like 5 months. It's our senses may be too stimulated. But if you want to get in, $10 Venmo, Mitchell Renz 365 is how you're going to be able to get an opportunity to win some cash.
We have 2 more super chats, and then we'll get into the first segmento of today's show.
I like it. I like it a lot.
First one.
Reminder again, if you want to get on like Dennis here, hashtag Raiders or super chat to skip the line. Carr would not have had so many coaches if he wins games. Yes and no, right? I mean, I don't think that people can look at the Raiders situation like John Gruden's situation. That has nothing to do with Derek Carr winning games. That's just on Gruden.
They were what, 5-1?
They were 5-2 before Gruden emails, Henry Ruggs situation. So that one I don't fully agree with, if you will. The Josh McDaniels, Dave Ziegler situation, that was an unfortunate situation, no doubt about it. The Jack Del Rio, unfortunate situation. Like, yes, the Raiders' defense was bad, and the Raiders lost a lot of football games because the defense was really bad. Like, that is very true. But I do also think that when if you are supposed to be that guy, and the Raiders paid Derek Carr to be that guy from 2017, 2018, 2019, and because he was unable to do that, I also think that really impacted the Raiders' chances to be able to win. But I don't look at all the coaches' situations and put that blame on Derek. I really, truly don't. We'll go up Raider Shield. Not sure DC will want, to be honest. He was done dirty his way out. That's, again, not 100% true, I don't think.
I think there's a difference between, and this is where it upsets me, because it'll be like 5 Raider fans could send his family death threats, say horrible things, and then it's, oh, Raider Nation did DC so dirty. Raider Nation was awful. When in reality, it's like 5 or 6 guys, 5 or 6 awful human beings that don't represent the nation. The same thing happens all the time in sports, like with the Astros. They had people send Lance McCullers death threats and like threaten his family after he had a horrible outing. That doesn't represent Astros fans. Astros fans aren't, trying to threaten Lance McCullers. There's 4 or 5 awful human beings that don't deserve to watch sports that have those opinions.
He's saying because of like the way it ended. And here's my problem with, I think everybody thinks that Derek is not to blame for how things ended with the Raiders. And I'll be honest, I don't think that is a fair statement. Do I think McDaniels and Ziegler and the Raiders deserve more blame? Yes, I do. I would say there is a 70 to 75% blame on the Raiders, but yet, there's that 30 to 25% on Derek Carr. And I say that because first off, the reason why things went as bad as what they did is because, for one, it was the Derek Carr contract. He had an injury clause in there that stated if he was injured, the Raiders would have to guarantee his contract in the year of 2023. Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler, they wanted to be able to move on from Derek, and the only way to assure that Derek would not have gotten injured is to bench him in Week 17. When the Raiders told Derek Carr that he was going to be benched Week 17, he threw a fit, and he was pissed off. And you know what, though? If I was Derek Carr, I probably would have threw a fit as well, because I'm a competitor, and I want to go out there and I want to compete. But when you throw a fit and you throw a temper tantrum, that is so bad that the team has to ask you to step away and be away from the team because they're worried that you're going to be a distraction. I think Derek Carr would sit back and go, you know what? I probably could have handled that situation of being benched a little bit better, because I don't think it was as much as F you to Derek Carr. We don't think you're good enough to play. I think it was them trying to tell him, hey, we're trying to move on from you next season, and this is the way that we're going to do it. Like, I think it was truly a business decision. And when it's a business decision, I think DC could have said, all right, yeah, that sucks. That's not the way that I wanted it to go. But if I could have been a better leader and I could have been supportive, then the team wouldn't have asked me to step away. Like, I think when you hear it like that, and that's how it went down, like, that to me is, it's not fair to say that Derek doesn't deserve blame. He does deserve some blame. Like, but the Raiders deserve more. And I think that that's probably the right way. Again, there's two sides to every story. I get that.
I don't know if this is fully confirmed, but Trace just tweeted out, it looks like the NFL may have dropped their Week 1 schedule.
Okay.
So Thursday night football, Cowboys, Eagles. Friday night, Chiefs, Chargers. And then Sunday, it looks like the Raiders will be playing the Giants.
Interesting.
Giants at Raiders.
Week 1.
That's at least from what this thing Trace just posted. It's Browns versus Jets, Saints versus Titans, Broncos at Texans.
Where did he put it?
He tweeted it out like a minute ago.
Oh.
Look on Trace's Twitter. The Monday night game that for Week 1, according to this post, Ravens at Packers.
I just got a DM. I'll tell you this. I just got a DM from a former Raider. So that tweet that Trace put out there, I think that definitely could be true. In terms of the Raiders and Giants, that's all. There was a former Raider. He plays for the Giants, and he's talking about going up against one of the best defensive lines in the NFL. And so I just messaged him, and we'll see. We'll see. That's kind of interesting.
Giants at Raiders Week 1.
I mean, Giants versus Raiders.
Week 1 is actually kind of electric for this office.
We'll see you there. Marsh, we'll see you Week 1.
Marsh!
We'll see you Week 1. I mean, if it's Raiders-Giants, this might break the internet. If that's the case. Again, there hasn't been any official leaks, and there will be leaks that come out from time to time. But our guy Trizzy Trace just pulled out something that he just got, and this shows Giants at Raiders Week 1. Giants at Raiders Week 1.
The best games in Week 1, in my opinion, if this is true, excluding our two teams, because I don't want to, a little bias. Obviously, sure. Cowboys, Eagles, Chiefs, Chargers, I think those are two good games. But from the Sunday games, I really like Vikings at Lions.
Oh, dude, that's
Week
electric.
1. I also like Bengals at Bills.
Oh, dude.
Week 1.
Well,
that's the Sunday night football. Week 1, apparently. And Bears at Washington.
Bears at Washington is low-key a heater. Yeah, Dolphins, Steelers, nah. Bucks, Panthers, nah. I mean, Broncos, Texans is honestly a pretty interesting football game.
Raider Nation, y'all are going to have fun.
What?
I messaged Marshall. I told him Giants, Raiders Week 1, Giants at Raiders. And he goes, is that confirmed? Damn, I want to save the easy wins for later in the season.
I mean, I actually think it's a great – if that's the case, that is a great Week 1 matchup. That is two football teams that they need to go out there and they need to do it, and they need to be able to show it quickly.
Russ returns to LV after playing for the Broncos.
Oh, my God. I totally forgot he's even on the Giants. Crosby will be happy about that. I think Crosby loves going up against Russell Wilson. Let's go to Pokemon Trainer Roy. I choose you. What's up, Mitch? What's up, Chugs? Is our O-line good enough for Genty to have a successful rookie season? Yes. I do. I said this, and I've said this a few times, that I think that the Raiders, when you look at their starting offensive line, and it's going to be, I would say, Colton Miller. I don't know who's going to be at left guard. Maybe it's Jordan Meredith. Maybe it's Dylan Parham. Center's no doubt JPJ. Right guard to me is either Alex Kappa or Dylan Parham. Right tackle is going to be DJ Glaze. That offensive line, I would say, is middle of the pack. Very average in the NFL. However, when you add in then the extra player of, a Caleb Rogers, a Charles Grant, and then whoever's not the starter between Parham, Meredith, and Kappa, to me, we legitimately have 8 deep offensive linemen. And I would say that our offensive line depth, and when you put the starters involved, that's probably a top 15, 12, 13, 14 overall unit. But the reason why you got to hope that it's better is because DJ Glaze, year 2, I would imagine that he's hopefully taken a step forward, going to be better. You got to imagine Kappa's going to be better. It can't be any worse than what he was last season. Jordan Meredith, can he stay just as good? Can he get better? Dylan Parham, contract year. Colton Miller, he's trying to get paid on top of that. And the offensive line last season with James Craig, it was bad, right? It was bad. And the offensive line needs to be good, but our offensive play calling also is extremely critical for, a running back success. And because Chip Kelly does such a good job spreading people out, he's going to find ways to get one-on-one matchups with Ashton Genty. And that might not be a term that we hear very often for a running back, but when you can get Ashton Genty one-on-one with a defender, I think Genty's going to win that matchup more times than he's not. And when you get that matchup is usually a safety. That matchup is usually a linebacker, 5-6 yards up the field, which then has the opportunity to turn that into a home run. But yes, we definitely have a good enough football team and definitely have a good enough offensive line for Genty to go out and get 1,200 rushing yards. And if he doesn't get 1,200 rushing yards, I'll go back and I'll look at this past season and I'll say that that's a little bit of a disappointment to me. Because the Raiders had so many holes, you go out and you take a running back at number 6 overall, he better be what he's cracked up to be. And I expect 1,200 rushing yards from Genty. What up, Gaines? People forget the year DC got injured was one of the easiest schedules they had in 15 years. Combine that with poor defense, it basically exposed his flaws along with the organization the next year. I'm not going to sit up here and act like I remember the whole easiest schedule debate, but because this is the time of the year where we always talk about NFL schedules, I will say that one of my least favorite talking points is when somebody's like, the Raiders have a hard schedule, the Raiders have an easy schedule, the Raiders and I only say that, now maybe you're referencing it because of how the year went in a whole, and again, I don't remember off the top of my head, but when people are like, oh, the Raiders have a middle of the pack strength of schedule. That's based off of last year. People, when they see the Raiders on their strength of schedule, it's going to be a very easy game because they're basing it off of the Raiders from last season. Let's be honest with ourselves. I think if the Raiders last year played the Raiders this year, 18 games, I don't know if the Raiders last year win a game. At least I would hope not. So I hear I hear what you're saying. I'd have to go back and look at the exact games. There's a lot of other reasons, why the Raiders were good that year, but 12-4 is not a fluke. And when you have a young quarterback in his second year that's thrown for 28 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, right? Throwing for 32 touchdowns, 13 interceptions, putting up those type of years at your first 3 years when you've been a part of an organization that has lost as much as the Raiders have, I don't think that that's a fluke. I really don't. I think Derek Carr was on his path to being a top 5 NFL quarterback in the NFL for multiple years, and unfortunately for him, he got injured, and that injury zapped his own confidence because Derek Carr, when he's confident, I don't give a shit what anybody says. That mother effer's a top 10 quarterback. That's a mean mother. That's a bad dude. When Derek doesn't have his confidence, he looks like the guy that can't get across midfield. And that was the frustrating part of watching Carr because there'd be one quarter you're like, if we get this Derek Carr for 18 games, we're going to the playoffs. And then the next quarter you're like, I don't even know if this guy's a starting quarterback. And it was that roller coaster ride of emotions with Derek. And I think it's because of confidence. And confidence means a lot in sports. It means a lot in life. Let's go to Fidel. What up, man? I was at the game. Carr got injured. Dude, that blows. Even though we won that game, leaving the stadium, everybody knew we were going to lose in the playoffs. Carr was the people's champion. I would compare that to the Steph Curry injury, right? Like, even though the Warriors won game one, when you talk to any Warriors fan after that game, they were like, series is over. And it was just nothing but depression because when you lose your star, when you lose your quarterback, your point guard, you can't open up a lot of other things. But that playoff game, the Connor Cook up against, I can never remember who was the Texans guy.
Was it Osweiler?
I don't remember.
I think it was Osweiler. Hold on.
It was Connor Cook against, I don't think it was Osweiler. Was it the other?
Was
it Osweiler?
It was.
Okay.
Connor Cook had 3 interceptions. Brock Osweiler,
disgusting. Cook was like 14 of 40.
18 of 45.
Holy shit. That's unbelievable.
Brock Osweiler, disgusting. 14 of 25 for 160 yards.
And a win. Imagine watching a playoff game with those two.
Any guess on who the leading rusher was for the Raiders?
In 2016?
In that game. Just in that game.
Oh.
He only had 39 yards, so not a ton.
Is he a small running back?
No.
I guess I'll go with McFadden. I don't even know. When did McFadden even play now that I'm thinking about it?
It wasn't McFadden.
Who was the running back from Texas Tech? Washington?
DeAndre Washington was not the leading rusher.
Oh, I was like, shit.
He was the second leading rusher. You want to know who the third one was? Jalen Richard.
Oh, dude, I love Jalen Richard. That's a hell of a name.
The leading rusher, though, you're going to be mad.
Latavius Murray.
Yeah. 39 yards.
As soon as you said going to be mad, I was like, there's somebody that I'm missing. That's got to be obvious. LT, man. The train. Keep it chugging. The news is in. Boston Celtics All-NBA star Jason Tatum underwent surgery to repair a torn right Achilles tendon.
Oh.
Catastrophic season-ending injury for one of the NBA's young faces, the Celtics, with a long rehab awaiting. So, Jason Tatum, Achilles tendon surgery. Cooper Flagg or Jason Tatum for the next 10 years?
Cooper Flagg.
Okay. I'm going to really test my basketball knowledge here. I'm trying to think of another player that's even in that realm who's a really talented player.
Shea?
I mean, I think Shea. Who would you guys think? Who's a good name that you're like, this guy or Jason Tatum? What's a good name?
Or Jason Tatum.
Yeah. I guess I don't know. That's devastating, though. Devastating. Somebody said his career is over. I don't think it's over, but
yeah,
I don't know if he'll win another title.
Priz.
Do you think it's messed up Raiders haven't acknowledged or posted anything about Derek retiring? Honestly, no, and I say that because I really do think that the Raiders are trying to operate like a smart business, and I will say that the emotional side of Raiders fans probably want you to give a little bit of love to Derek Carr, but then from a business perspective, I don't really see why I would show love to somebody that is under contract with another team. And I do really, really, truly believe that if Derek Carr was not under contract and he had no affiliation whatsoever with the New Orleans Saints, that then the Raiders probably could. But because he is still technically under contract with New Orleans, that to me is a little bit strange. But I think if the Raiders would have posted about it, I would have loved it. And the fact that the Raiders haven't posted about it, I'm not going to lose sleep over it because I would want to be, let's focus on our football team. Let's focus on trying to get this new regime going instead of living in the past. But at the same time, if they would have posted, I would have said, all right, Raiders, good job, good move on your part. But if Mark would have done it, he would have done it. Mark has posted things on Twitter before, and I know some of the posts personally that Mark literally hit post himself on. And if Mark wants to do it, he'll just do it himself. And He hasn't done that in a while, but I know if Mark wanted to, he would. I'll leave it like that. All right, y'all, we are about to get into the news here on today's show. Shout out to the 727 people here in the building. If you haven't already, click that like button. What were you going to say? I got you. If you haven't already, make sure you guys click that like button. And to everybody that is tuned in, if you want to get your questions, comments on the show, hashtag Raiders, or you can super chat to skip the line. I should also mention this because it's the month of May. Every $5 super chat that we get in the month of May, you are going to be entered in for a chance to win an Ashton Genty jersey. And we are going to do that raffle at the very, very end of May. I almost said March. Very, very end of May. You ready? Y'all ready? Coming up, let's talk about Derek Carr and some interesting NFL rumors on today's show. Raider Nation, I need you to answer this question. Should the Las Vegas Raiders sign Derek Carr to a one-day contract so he can retire a Raider? Give me a yes, give me a no. My answer coming up today here on the Raiders Report. Raider Nation, what's going on? It's Mitchell Renz here, host of the Raiders Report, and I got some rumors that we're going to give some just win babies to. Should the Raiders sign Derek Carr? I'll give you my answer here in just a moment. Should the Raiders sign Asante Samuel Jr.? If you haven't seen, he worked out for an NFL team on Monday. And then should the Raiders be interested in trading for Trey Hendrickson? Now that it's the offseason, when there's other NFL news that needs to be discussed, and I've had a lot of fans ask me if the silver and black should be interested in the Bengals edge rusher, all of these answers coming up here on today's episode. So first, should the Raiders go out and sign Derek Carr to a one-day contract? I am going to give this one 4 just win babies, and I'm going to say believe it, baby. If the Las Vegas Raiders could, if they were allowed to, I do think it would be a smart decision by this organization, because I also think that Derek wants to retire a Raider. And you can say what you want about DC winning football games, and I know a lot of people are going to be like, Mitch, you wanted the Raiders to move on from Derek Carr. I did. Me wanting the Raiders to move on from DC is strictly a football move, a business decision, if you will. It has nothing to do with what I think about Derek, because personally, I think Carr is a stand-up human being, and there is nobody on this planet that plays in the NFL that has helped the Raiders Report, help my career grow more than Derek Carr, and I will forever be grateful for him. However, though, he did retire from the NFL on Saturday, and he's hanging him up after 11 years. He played 9 years with the Las Vegas Raiders from 2014 to 2022, was drafted in the second round out of Fresno State, and he even thanked the Raiders and Mark Davis in his Instagram. But, like, the number one thing that you need to look at there, that's not a Saints jersey. Derek, to me, and it shouldn't shock anybody, we know Derek Carr is still a Raider at heart. And if you think that as well, hit that like button. But this is what DC had to say on IG. Thank you. Doesn't say enough to my incredible family and friends. Thank you for your love and support. To the Raiders and Saints organizations, Mr. Davis and Miss Benson, thank you for giving me the opportunity to live out a childhood dream. To every coach who shaped me, every teammate I went to battle with, and every opponent who pushed me, I'm grateful for the grind, the memories, and the brotherhood. To the fans, thank you for riding with me through the highs and lows, the injuries, the comebacks, the records, and the Pro Bowls. Through it all, I gave this game everything I had every single day. I sleep well knowing that I gave my teammates, my coaches, and my cities my all. Now I look forward to whatever God has next, and I'll pursue it with the same fire I brought to the field. God bless, and see you soon. Here's the issue, though. Do I think that the Raiders should go out and sign Derek Carr to a one-day contract so he can retire a Raider? Hell freaking yeah, I do. Can't do it, though. And the reason why we can't do it is because Derek Carr is still a New Orleans Saints. And in order for this to happen, the Saints would have to release him of his contract. The reason why that's not going to happen is there is actually some still speculation out there and some rumors that Carr could try to return to football in the year of 2026. So there was a lot of rumors, a lot of speculation. People throwing out that he's faking an injury. That was from Diana Rossini, and it was because the Saints, I think, wanted to move on from Derek. Derek didn't want to have a pay cut. So this could be an easy year, one-way step away, that if Derek wanted to try to return to football in 2026, he could potentially do it. But if Carr unretires, he is a New Orleans Saint, right? Like, this dates back to when people would be like, could the Raiders go get Andrew Luck? He's retired. No, if he comes back to the NFL, the Colts still own his rights because he's under contract with them. This is the exact same situation. So would I love to see DC sign a one-day? Yes. But you got to understand, that's not going to happen, and it can't happen unless the Saints say, we are releasing Derek Carr from our contract, which they have not done, and they're not going to do, because no smart NFL team would do it. Simple as that. Because if you did, then Derek could unretire and then join any football team that he wanted. If you guys don't know this, we are live every single Tuesday, Thursday, 4 p.m. Eastern Time, 1 p.m. Pacific. But also, this week, we're going to be live Wednesday, 4 p.m. Eastern, and Friday for our first Week 1 Madden Sim, which sounds like right now might be up against the New York Giants. There's going to be a lot of schedule leaks tomorrow. There's maybe already been a few schedule leaks today. We just got something from Chat Sports that it looks like the Raiders might be playing the Giants Week 1. Haven't been able to confirm it. Haven't been able to see it all yet, but I do think it's very, very interesting nonetheless. Let's go to the next rumor here on today's show. Should the Las Vegas Raiders try to sign Asante Samuel Jr.? Cornerback has been a position that I have not been afraid to say that we need to go out and we need to address. We need to be able to go out and add a slot corner. Should the Raiders sign Asante Samuel Jr.? No, this one is tuck rule, tuck that. 0 just win, babies. And I bet you there's some people going, wow, that's not what I expected that answer to be. Quite frankly, I don't blame you. But the reason why the answer is this as it stands right now, if you haven't seen, there is more information coming out that Asante Samuel Jr. underwent neck surgery in April, and there are a lot of teams and medical doctors that are concerned about that neck surgery, which is why Samuel is still out there on the open market. If there was a player like Asante Samuel Jr., and I'm not trying to make him out to be this all-pro corner, but he's a good corner. Let's be honest. He's a good young corner. He's 25 years old. When a player like that is not signed, a little light bulb should go off in your head and be like, well, what's the reasoning behind it? The reasoning is teams are scared to death of what this neck injury looks like, and if he's not scheduled to have another checkup for July, if I'm an NFL team like the Raiders, I'll wait until July, right before training camp, and if it comes out that he's good, then it's a different conversation. What I'm not going to do is sign a cornerback that, first off, plays on the outside. We need an inside corner. And the fact that he just had a visit with the Saints on Monday, May 12th, and even the Saints were kind of like, we want to wait and see what that looks like. The reason is the health. I hear you loud and clear. But I don't know if Asante Samuel Jr. necessarily is what the Raiders would look for in a corner. Like, they want long, lanky guys, and that's just not what Samuel is. I know a lot of people hear the name Asante Samuel Jr. and they instantly think, oh, he's a slot guy because that's what his dad was. He's not a slot guy. Do I think maybe I'd have more confidence in him than Darnay Holmes? Yeah, I'm not going to lie, probably would. But to me, if you're going to go out and you're going to sign a corner, go out and sign a slot. Go out and sign a nickel corner that has been healthy. That's been good. So coming up on this show, I'm going to talk about the two corners that if I was the Raiders, I would target. Because the only reason why we're even talking about Asante Samuel Jr. is because cornerback is still a need for this team. We agree with that, right? Like, I still would like to add a nickel corner. I don't think Asante Samuel Jr. necessarily fills that void. So because of that, I'm going to tell you the two corners that I would target here in just a moment. Before I break that down, if there's any Raiders fans out there looking for a Raiders jersey, I'll be real. I'm somebody that buys legends, right? Like, I'll buy a legend jersey like a Bo Jackson, Charles Woodson, Howie Long. I actually saw a question on Twitter today that said, do you think the number 24 should be retired for Charles Woodson? I thought that was an interesting question. Let me know down below. But if anybody out there needs to get themselves a Raiders jersey, you can also get some of the rookies jerseys available as well. It's chatsports.com/Raiders jerseys. I'm going to put those links for you guys down in the comments, down in the description. And the Genty jerseys, the last time that I checked, they were fully sold out of the 4XL and the 3XL. I still think they have all the other sizes. But yeah, hey, Raider fans like to eat. Raider fans like to drink, right? I mean, that's what we know. This is the Geno Smith jersey. Now we know that he's number 7. This was like an old graphic that we had. Brock Bowers, congratulations to him for being able to graduate from the University of Georgia. And now he's already out there on the football field showing everybody why he's the best tight end in the National Football League. God bless you, Jeremy. Coming up next here, the two corners the Raiders should target. And yes, Jugs just sneezed, so if you guys could give me some of those down below. The two corners that I would consider going out and trying to get, and I would say for anybody that's watched this show already, you probably know the two names I'm going to throw out there. You probably have somewhat of an idea because I've already talked about some post-draft free agent targets. First name is going to be Mike Hilton. And veteran, 31 years old, had 73 tackles last season, 1 interception, 5 PBUs, but realistically is the top slot corner out there. And I would look at what the Raiders did with Jalen Smith. And Jalen Smith is nowhere near as good as what Mike Hilton is. But I do think what the Raiders tried to do with Jalen Smith signing him is they said, all right, we got a 29-year-old, and we're going to try to add a older linebacker to a very young and inexperienced linebacker room and see if we can spark some competition. I think you do the exact same damn thing with Mike Hilton, who the past 2 years, 13 PBUs, 3 interceptions, 24 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, 157 tackles, 31 years old, but still 4 straight years of a 70-plus PFF grade, and has had 123 games played, 56 games started, 23 starts the past 2 seasons. If you add Mike Hilton to that cornerback room, it's going to help a lot of those younger corners, and it's going to bring more competition because adding a vet like Hilton, just like adding a vet like Jalen Smith, lights a fire underneath some asses, and that's what we need on this team. Another name to keep in mind is Troy Hill. And the reason why I'm going to throw out Troy Hill is because of connections, the relationship. And he signed with John Spytek and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers last season. Did play in only 8 games, but 202 slot snaps. Not the best overall coverage grade, but it's still, 70.6 coverage grade, 63.2 overall grade, 5'10", 182-pounder, 32 tackles. And again, somebody that's getting up there in age. But the Raiders have already shown us this offseason, and Troy Hill, better than Jalen Smith, right? Mike Hilton, better than Jalen Smith. But I do think that the Raiders are showing you something that this is something that they could potentially be looking at. And I don't really think Hilton or Hill are probably going to sign now. Quite frankly, if I was a free agent, I would wait until after June 1st. Or I would wait until mandatory minicamp, which is June 10th for the Raiders. But, seeing today, they already got Brock Bowers practicing. They already got Geno Smith practicing. They already got their guys practicing. Why? Because Pete Carroll is telling everybody, if we want to win, we got to do what nobody else is doing. And that's having our stars show up on May 12th, May 13th. I don't care what day of the year it is. We show up, we go out there, we give 110%. People who also give 110%. People that comment on a pinned comment. And I know I use this term a lot on YouTube. And I always say it's like the very first question that I ask on a show, you're about to get hit with a YouTube ad break. Scroll on down and let me know your answer. But I always put pinned comments on shows, and I like when people answer those pinned comments. So a shout out to Seth, Raiders, EYA's Porvita. What up, Zach, OC, Casey Brown? I saw that you responded to my pinned comment in the last video that I did. I appreciate it. When you take time out of your day to answer the questions that I want to know, I'm going to take time out of my day to let you all know that I appreciate you. Let's go to the final story here on today's episode, and it's going to be around Trey Hendrickson, the defensive end for the Bengals. And Jordan Schultz reported, Hendrickson said he received a text from head coach Zach Taylor 30 days before mandatory minicamp, warning he'd be fined if he didn't show up, something that frustrated them, especially given the poor communication from the team throughout the offseason. Hendrickson also made it clear he will not play under the final year of his current contract. So right now there was a lot of trade rumors. Right now there's a lot of speculation on what exactly is going to happen with the Bengals and Hendrickson. And, with that, we're talking about a player that has had a lot of sacks over the past few seasons. And I'm somebody that always preaches, you can never have too many defensive linemen. You can never have too many guys get after the quarterback. So would it make sense that right now you could probably buy low on Hendrickson? Because if the Bengals don't want to pay him, and it sounds like there's some friction there, and Hendrickson literally said, I'm not playing unless I get a brand new contract. Cincinnati, who just paid basically Joe Burrow, T. Higgins, and Jamar Chase, 3 contracts totaling, it was like $666 million. 65% of the cap. They're not going to pay Hendrickson, I don't think. There's going to be a team that makes the trade for him. So my question to you is, should the Raiders try to go out and get Trey Hendrickson? Guess what? I'm also going to put tuck rule, tuck that, and I am saying no. I would not be interested in going out and getting the Bengals defensive end unless it was at a reasonable price. And here's the problem. It sounds like he wants $30 million per year. I do think Hendrickson is a good football player, but you've kind of heard Chugs and I talk about him on past live shows that there is a lot of NFL players that call him selfish because there are guys that think that all he cares about are going out and getting sacks, that he takes plays off in running games. And, if he's not trying to go out and get the quarterback, that he'll take a play off. I'll also say this. If we're going to go out and we're going to give up trade capital, draft capital, and then we're going to spend $30+ million, I would say this to Raider Nation. Would you rather give $30 million to Trey Hendrickson or use that $30 million and invest that into contract extensions for Jacoby Myers and Colton Miller? Like, I'm not saying that Hendrickson couldn't help out this Raiders team. He obviously could help out this team, and he would obviously help out any NFL team that he's on. But I'm looking at the amount of salary cap that we have right now, and I would say that investing that type of money would be smarter in making sure that our left tackle is secured, making sure that our wide receiver one is secured. And I don't think that he's 17 and a half sacks good. Like, I actually think that Hendrickson is one of these players that when you actually watch him play and you actually watch the tape, he's not nearly as good as what his stats indicate. You also got to remember the Cincinnati Bengals last season was a team that was putting up a ton of points. So teams were passing the football and playing a lot of catch-up. Hendrickson is a great football player, but I am not interested in giving him $30 million. No chance, no way. So to me, the top 5 teams that I could see doing a move like this, the Detroit Lions, the Washington Commanders, I'll throw out there right away. I'll put out a team like the Colts, the Packers, and then the Arizona Cardinals. But to me, the top 2 teams that legitimately make the most sense, Detroit Lions, Washington Commanders. Because the way the season ended last year for Detroit, they got to pull out all the stops. And I don't know, I'm wishing Aiden Hutchinson the best. But the videos that I've seen of Aiden Hutchinson on that leg, they concern me. And then if you're the Commanders, you got to compete with the Super Bowl champs. And I get you just made it to the NFC Championship game, but you got to figure out ways to improve. And those are the top 2 teams that I think end up getting it done. Appreciate all y'all tuning in to today's show on the Raiders Report. Again, I know we're talking about Derek Carr. I hope that everybody can be a responsible human being and an adult down in the comments. I know that DC always brings up some really good debates, some really bad debates, but I hope here on the Raiders Report you know that you could express your feelings in any way possible. Just please be respectful to everybody, especially when it has to do with Derek Carr.
Especially when it has to do with Derek Carr.
I mean, I feel like you have to say that almost any time we're talking about DC or any quarterback at this point for the Raiders. But next segment coming up here on the show, I'm going to be breaking down some Raiders rookie minicamp winners and losers. And I'm going to spend majority of the time on the winners and some of the notes that I got from players and people that are at the building, which I think a lot of y'all are really going to enjoy. But my question to you is this. And, you know, rookie minicamp ended on the 11th. And there's already been some stories, some reports. This is another video that I wanted to be able to do yesterday, but unfortunately, and not unfortunately is not the right word. The Raiders made so many damn roster moves that when the Raiders do a roster moves, I'm going to prioritize that over talking about minicamp winners and losers. So I wanted to be able to already talk about this show, but you've already kind of seen some of the news, some of the rumors come out about some of these players. Is there somebody that's sticking out to you? Like, I see Patrick Rose says Jack Besh. Jack Besh is 1,000,000% on this show because he was one of the biggest winners from rookie minicamp. I actually had one of the Raiders players tell me that he's like sneaky strong, that when you like watch him play, I'm not saying that I was told that he's like Brock Bowers. I'm telling you that I think that when people watch Brock Bowers play, they don't realize how strong he is. They don't realize how fast he is. They don't realize how good he is until you're going up next to him and all of a sudden you're like, well, holy shit, like this guy's an alien. He's unbelievable. I think Jack Besh has a little bit of that, not nearly the athlete that Bowers is, but when you get him out there on the field, you're like, what the hell is this? Like, the comp that I'll give to y'all, imagine, you know, going up and playing basketball against like Scalabrini or Austin Reeves, right? If you saw a guy like Austin Reeves, you're like, all right, like this guy, you can tell he's a good athlete, but I think when you actually see him then and you go up against him, even like healthy Luka, like I know Luka looks like all he does is eat cheeseburgers and drink beers, and honestly, maybe that's what he does. But he's always been known for being a much stronger player than what he looks like. Like Jokic, right? Looks a lot stronger than what he is. Max Crosby, I think Max Crosby, like if he were to take his shirt off, he doesn't look like DK Metcalf, right? Like but you could tell that he's very, very well put together. And that's some of the notes that I've been hearing about Besh. Raider Rob 1969 says Amari Gaynor. I agree on Amari Gaynor was a minicamp winner. Now, even though he did not participate, because, again, he's not a rookie, and there were some guys that weren't rookies that were there, obviously, right, like Jalen Smith, but Amari Gaynor was a winner because Amari Burney got cut. That's an extra opportunity for Gaynor to make the 53 and an extra opportunity for him to get out there on the field. Like, I think it's funny in a sense that people are saying Jalen Smith signing is the reason why Amari Burney got cut. I don't actually think that. I think it's how good and how much they expect Amari Gaynor to be to say, all right, like Burney was the athlete. Gainer is also a good athlete. We can move on from Bernie because we know what we got in the Mari Gainer. Let's go to John Scheffler, Mount Raider more. What up, Sheffy? I'm tired of hearing how Raiders did Carr bad. They paid him a top 5 quarterback extension twice. He never lived up to the expectations, so they owe him nothing. I agree with that statement too, right? Like, I think that there are 2 ways to look at it, and I would say if you look at it from the Mark Davis standpoint, from a business owner perspective, if I was a business owner and I gave Derek Carr the amount of money that I gave DC, I agree. I would sit back and go, that was a bad investment. And I don't think I don't think you can debate that, right? Like, if you were to buy a stock, and if Derek Carr was your stock, you're buying stock to think that you're going to be able to make more money. That never happened. Yeah, I get they moved to Vegas and that made more money, but when you pay a quarterback, it's the result in wins, and the Raiders did not win. Let's go to Lucky Raider 777. Once a Raider, always a Raider, and yes, DC4 is a Raider. Is that the machine you play on? Because my mom also, anytime my mom goes to a slot machine or a casino, I couldn't think of the word, she looks for a machine that's got 3 sevens on it. And I can remember one of the trips I took with her to Atlantic City. Shit, this is probably like 10 years ago at this point. She goes, I'm going to play that 777 machine. Those are the lucky sevens that I look for. She sits down. She pulled the lever one time and made $577, which is not the most money you can make on a slot. But I mean, I'll tell you this right now. If I'd sit down, pull a lever, $577 came out, I'm good.
I'm good.
I don't gamble. But my mom's side of the family they like to gamble. Let's just say that.
I'm a gambling man.
What up, Patrick? Been hearing Genty and Besh have been standing out amongst others in minicamp. From the offensive side of the football, Genty and Besh were the 2 most impressive players at camp, and this is not a knock on anybody else at camp. They were the 2 best players, and it wasn't close. And I mean that where they were the 2 best players, and that's not a knock. And I think most Raider fans don't take that as an insult to everybody else. I think they take that as that's good news to me because we expected Genty to be great. Besh also really showed that he was by far the best receiver at camp. I'm telling you right now, he was by far the best receiver at camp from everybody that I talked to, which is very encouraging. Very encouraging.
I'll tell you what, man.
Jack Besh, best guy at camp. Coming up here on the Raiders Report, let's get into the Raiders minicamp winners and losers. And you know what? I just realized I haven't even updated anybody, if we even got anybody for the duck race, which I said it was a $10 Venmo for a chance to get in. And it looks like we got some people that want multiple ducks. So give me 1 second here. And I got to write down some names. So Richard Kelly, I got you in. I got my man Patrick Roche, you in. Victor Lobos, you in. Robert. Nope, sorry.
Roberto.
Nabman, I got you. Hang on, Victor. I was spelling your name just not even close to being right. I see Natalie Cruz, but Natalie, you got 2 of them. So I'm going to give you another one. Jonathan Smith, you in.
Smith.
Gilbert Moreno, you're in twice. Ron Raz. What up, Ron? Sean Johnson, you in. Sean Johnson, isn't that a sweatpants brand?
Sean Johnson?
Is that a sweatpants brand?
Sean Long John Silvers?
Chad Howard. Long John Silvers. When I was growing up as a kid, that was the seafood restaurant.
I've only been there like once.
I've been there a lot.
A lot.
Not gonna lie.
Best thing on the menu.
That I remember, they had these like coconut shrimp. I mean, I'm not kidding you. I can remember my mom and I, we would drive like 30 minutes to go to Long John Silver's.
30 minutes?
Again, you got to understand where I live. At that time, I mean, shit, that's 20 years ago. When they put a Taco Bell in my hometown, people were like, are we about to get an NFL team? It was a big deal. The only other, restaurants in my hometown were, there was a place called Arthur Treacher's. That went out of business.
What was the breakfast place you always tell me about?
Sheets. So Sheets, they're actually ripping it down to build a new one, upgrade.
Oh, wow, good.
And
I was worried.
My dad called me the other day, and it's probably like 2 or 3 weeks ago, and he's like, you got to make sure you tell your buddy Joe this. So Joe's from Philadelphia, and Philadelphia, they have Wawas. They're going to put in a Wawa in my hometown, and it's like front page news. Like, it is.
Oh, because it has like the sandwiches and stuff too.
Yeah, it's like a gas station that you can also get sandwiches. And again, Danville is now a very easy town to go into when you're trying to get to like Route 80 through Pennsylvania. So like a lot of truck drivers kind of come through. But dude, Taco Bell, McDonald's, Wendy's is there now. It's crazy.
Any like other like normal chains? You have a Chili's?
We have a TGI Fridays, but that's like 20 minutes away. Like I would say like that's in Buckhorn. That's not in Danville. We have a CVS.
Panda Express?
No, they have a Happy Buffet. That's what it's called. There's an Asian Happy Buffet, but the only Asian restaurant to my knowledge in Danville is literally called John's Asian Cuisine. Which
is it good?
I don't know. John's Asian Cuisine doesn't really come off to me as being authentic. Maybe that's just me. I don't know. All right, man. One more refresh here to get in for our duck race. Oh, dude, you're never going to guess who just got in.
Anthony Green.
No. But to be honest, that's the best guess you could have given.
Yeah.
Miggy Camacho. What up, Miggy?
Miggy, can't you see? Sometimes your supers hypnotize me.
So right now we are at a $10 Venmo for a chance to go home with $80. $10 Venmo to go home with 80 doll hairs, and we're going to do this at the very end of the show. Coming up next, though, we are going to get into some Raiders minicamp winners and losers, and since we're only doing 2 segments today, as soon as this next show is done, I'll go through some super chats, answer some questions, run the duck race, and then we will get out of here. But again, reminder, we're going to be live tomorrow, 4 p.m. Eastern time, for the NFL schedule release. 1 p.m. to be specific. You ready? Coming up, let's talk about minicamp winners and losers. Raider Nation, what's going on? It's Mitchell Renz here, host of the Raiders Report, and today's show is going to be Raiders rookie minicamp winners and losers. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to spend way more time on the winners than I am the losers. And when you see the losers on the show, every single person's going to go, yeah, I'd probably consider that person a loser as well. But you know what? If you want to become a winner, then you got to get started with our sponsor here, Panda Sups. Use code GENTY, Jeanty, to get 25% off at pandasups.com. Also, a little bit later on today's show, I'm going to show you what my wedding stack is, which is essentially the products that I have been using to help me get into better shape for my wedding, which, crazy enough, 24 days away. Wild, wild, wild. We are also going to, yeah, Chucks, you can get out of it now. We are also going to be breaking these down from like number 5 to number 1. As 5 is not the biggest winner, but they are a winner. Number 1 is going to be the biggest winner. Let's go in here. Number 5 is going to be Tommy Mellott at wide receiver. And Mellott this weekend really showed that he's a much better athlete. He's a quick learner. And I had a source tell me that he's a sponge and just a good football player. He's going to be used in special teams, which is something that we know. He is a better route runner than what was anticipated. He also showed that he can catch pretty well with his hands, but he's got clearly the speed. He's got the quickness, and the key word that I'll say in there is he's a sponge. Like, you need a player like Tommy Mellott to be a sponge, right? And when we interviewed him a few weeks ago, he's talking about Raiders great Clem Daniels back from 1961 and 1967. Like, that to me is a player that does his homework. And for Mellott to work, to become a quarterback at FCS, to work as a wide receiver, to be considered the next Julian Edelman, you got to be a sicko and you got to be a sponge. And I do really think that Tommy Mellott is a sicko and a sponge, and I mean that in the most respectful way possible. Let's go to number 4 here. It's going to be Dante Thornton Jr. And I said this earlier in the week that when I look at Dante Thornton Jr., it kind of reminds me of Martavis Bryant, of just this alien-like wide receiver who's 6'5", who towers over everyone and just can run, dude. Like, he's not only really big, he's got legit 4.3 speed, and it's so effortless watching him run. His strides, I mean, it's literally like watching a gazelle. I mean, he's just running down the field long like, I mean, imagine you on an elliptical at 4.3 speed. That's Dante Thornton Jr. I also know this, that his personality is a great match with Pete Carroll. Carroll's going to bring the energy. Carroll's going to want somebody that can crack some jokes, can make the wide receivers laugh. Thornton is already establishing himself as one of those players, and the Raiders are just excited about his potential. Yes, he was used in a gimmicky offense, which I think is the nice way to put it, at Tennessee, and he was used as a field stretcher where he averaged, 25.4 yards per catch. But there is some legitimate upside there, and if Thornton can perfect his craft, I'm telling you, he's got some serious upside. Let's go to number 3 here, and it's going to be offensive lineman, another rookie. It's Caleb Rogers, and I had somebody tell me that Caleb Rogers is the oldest rookie that they've ever seen, and he's wise beyond his years. And when you heard Caleb Rogers talk to the media, I think it was earlier in the week, maybe it was on, right first day of rookie minicamp, maybe it was last Friday. He talked about having a 5-year-old, and he kind of just talked about, what he was going to bring to the table and how he was trying to just be ready to play at all positions. But when I got he's wise beyond his years, I mean, that didn't surprise me at all. He is also clearly a leader. And one of the things that you got to look for early on in rookie minicamp is, it's easy for Genty to walk in a room and command respect. It's easy for Max Crosby to walk into a room and get respect. Geno Smith, easy to do it. When you're an offensive lineman, and Caleb Rogers, again, was drafted in the 3rd round, it's not as easy for you to be able to walk into a room and say, hey, look at me, this is what I'm saying. But Rodgers is doing that, and it's not in a bad way. It's a leadership type of mentality, and it's already being noticed by coaches and players. I also was told that he's a hard worker, and he's much more athletic than what I anticipated. So somebody who's at practice knows my thoughts about Rodgers, and he was the lowest graded player that I gave in my Raiders grades. I was basically said, I was told you're going to be eating those words because he's a lot more athletic than what I originally thought. And honestly, dude, I hope you're right. Now there's a huge tier break. I'm going to be honest. The 2 biggest winners from minicamp, and it's not close, are going to be the 2 names that I'm about to mention here. First one, coming in at number 2, Jack Besh. And he is a dog. He brings that Max Crosby mentality, and he tries to beat the shit out of you with every rep that he does. He's a smooth route runner. You can already see that he's got great hands, and he's just much more athletic in person. And I say that because when I heard that he's much more athletic in person, the initial thing that I originally thought of was, we're talking a lot about the NBA, but like a guy like Luka Doncic, right? Like a guy like Jokic, where if you were to look at them without a shirt on, you're like, that guy's an athlete. And then you go up against him, you're like, wow, he's a lot stronger than I thought. Oh, wow, he's a lot faster than I thought. I was also, kind of told that he's a football player in the sense that Brock Bowers is a football player. I'm not saying Jack Besh is Brock Bowers. I'm not saying that at all. But I am saying if you could get the Dollar General version, right? The Dollar General version of Jack Besh, or a Dollar General version of Brock Bowers, and that is your number 2 receiver in Besh, I don't necessarily know if that's a bad thing, because I think when people watch Bowers play, he's kind of that same thing where you look at him and you're like, oh, he can't be this good. Like, there was questions of how good he was even after you saw it for 3 years at Georgia. And then, you saw it last year for the Raiders. It was, he's a lot faster. He's a lot better at catching. He just does so many things so well. And Besh showed very early on that he is the 2nd best wide receiver on our team. And I'll say it, I think Jack Besh is going to have a bigger year than Trey Tucker. And that might be a hot take for some people, because I think Besh is a better receiver. Though I do think Trey Tucker might be the better athlete and might be the better weapon. But I got to ask this, because this is going to be a huge question. Maybe Tucker plays special teams. Maybe Jack Besh isn't the number 2 wide receiver. But I am going to sit up here and I'm going to tell you, I believe the bigger impact this season will be Besh, and I'm going to type JB. But this will be the pinned comment on today's show, and you're about to get it with the YouTube ad break. While that ad is playing, I want you to scroll on down and give me your answer. Will Trey Tucker or Jack Besh have a bigger impact for the Raiders this season? I'm going to say Jack Besh makes the bigger impact, not only from a receiving standpoint, but also from a blocking standpoint. You have to have the mentality that I want to block. And that's huge when you have a running back in Ashton Genty. And because of that, That's why I think Besh is going to be just the bigger, impactful player. Though I hope that Trey Tucker does get used the way that all of us have been hoping Trey Tucker gets used. Let's go to the last and the biggest winner on offense, and it's Ashton Jeanty. This one should not surprise anybody, quite frankly. If Jeanty wasn't number one on this list, that would have been a problem, right? But I'm telling y'all right now, he's the real deal, y'all. Like, he everything that he did, it looked almost too easy. It was nonchalant. It looked like somebody that has been doing it for years, and he's out there. I know that we are in the National Football League, and I know that this is rookie minicamp, and it'll be fun to see Jeanty up against, some of these other NFL players. But from what I understood, it was like Jeanty was like clearly the best player, and everybody else like just wasn't close to him. And it's because Jeanty, I think, is just such a phenomenal blue chip prospect. He's also a leader on and off the field. I will say that he's quiet, where one of the players told me he's leads by example, doesn't say too much, and it kind of reminds me of like a Colton Miller, where Colton Miller also was the same way of, I'm going to lead by example, and you're not really going to hear too much from me, but that's just because that's not my personality. Jeanty's going to show up. He's going to give you 110%. I was told that he did look better at catching the football than what some people expected, but that to me was something that I knew that he brought to the table. It's never that I thought that he couldn't catch it. It's just he was never really asked to do it at Boise because he didn't really need to. Some honorable mentions that I do want to throw out for Raiders rookie minicamp winners and losers. Keyshawn Jackson and Keyshawn Smith. Those guys ended up making the Raiders 53-man roster. I'll be real. 90-man roster, excuse me. Yeah, they got signed to the 90-man roster officially. But, for that, that's a win. Those are two players that were not signed as UDFAs, and now they have an opportunity to go out there and compete. I was also told Cam Miller was better than Haj Malik Williams, and not that I'm too surprised by that, but whoever was going to be better out of that dynamic was going to be the winner on the show. So Cam Miller, I was told, was the better one out of those two guys. In terms of the minicamp losers, and again, this show is more about the good, and that's what's important. Tyreek McAllister, Dominic Boyd, Christian Wilkerson. All three of those players got cut. And I don't know how you could be a bigger loser than that. I'm not going to paint a picture of some of these other players that weren't there. I probably can take a little bit more of a deep dive, but today's show is more about showing these young rookies love and all the good. The players that got cut, I think we can all agree that you would be considered a loser on this show. Coming up next here, we are going to get into some more winners and losers. This time, it's going to be on the defensive side of the football. Before I take a deep dive into that, friendly reminder, every day this week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I'm going to be live, 4 p.m. Eastern Time, 1 p.m. Pacific. NFL schedule release. We're going to be live over, 4 hours on Wednesday. Going to have a lot of fun. Going to be breaking down the Raiders schedule. Thursday, normal live show, 3 segments for you. And then Friday, May 16th, Madden Week 1 simulation. I already saw Chugs on Tuesday was firing up the old PS5 and getting all the rosters situated. I can't flip and wait. It's going to be a great time. And if you're just like me, where you're like, dude, I'm itching for Raiders football. I know it's Madden, but we're going to have a lot of fun. And I promise you, you're going to have a lot of fun. So make sure you're subscribed. Make sure those noties are turned on. All right, let's go to defense here. And some of the minicamp winners on defense. Coming in at number 5, Mello Dotson, cornerback. One of my buddies who was at practice told me that Dotson brings the juice. And I love that expression because Pete Carroll brings the juice, right? And the fact that Carroll's got all these DBs working and going out there and competing, you need a UDFA like Mello Dotson because it's going to make everybody else better. When you look at this Raiders cornerback room, and I get it, Stokes, Jacorian, DeCamerion, Richardson, they're not at rookie minicamp, or at least they weren't. But when you have a player like Mello Dotson that's going to light that flame and get everybody else around him to going out there and competing, Pete Carroll loves that type of shit. Dotson's technique also, I would say, is further along than what most UDFA technique is. I will say, just from an athletic standpoint, Dotson doesn't have the athletic traits that you look for in an NFL corner, but he's a competitor. And you know Pete Carroll loves corners that can compete. Let's go to number 4 here. J.J. Pegues, defensive tackle. And one of my fun notes that I had on Pegues from over the weekend was that he always had a smile on his face, and he always looked like he was just, a kid in a candy store having a great time. Pegues and Hemingway were really hitting the bags pretty hard. I think they were trying to show early on that they're going to bring some pop, that they're going to be able to bring a little bit of versatility, and they were trying to hurt some people, and I think that that's a good thing. When I say people, I mean the coach is essentially holding up the bags. But the other thing that I heard about Pegues that I knew he was good at was he was a lot better of an athlete than I think what he tested at, and that's why Ole Miss, allowed him to run the football at times. But one of the clear things that I saw was that he was a big boy and that his feet moved much better than anticipated, and his hands were also quick. I do think one of the reasons why an Adam Butler is as successful in the NFL as what he is because he's got quick hands and he's got quick feet. And even though he's not the best athlete, when you get a first step on guys that are over 300 pounds, you just get the better angle and you can get lower. Pegues is showing me early on some good in that. Let's go to number 3 here, and it's Laki Tassi, the International Pathway Program defensive tackle. And dude's a monster. Chug said, please get a headshot. So to the Raiders organization, can we please get a good picture of Laki Tassi? That way we can use on our show. Just a gigantic human being. I mean, we're talking about a 6'6", 350-pound human being that when he was there was asking a lot of questions, clearly showing that he's eager to learn. And, when you're talking about the International Pathway Program player, I get that, David Agoa the past few years wasn't really used. And Laki Tassi might not be used as well, but there have been players that have been through the International Pathway Program player that have turned on to be good players. Like Jordan Mailata is a great example. But look at how big Tassi is. And it's not just from the height standpoint, thickness-wise. Like, Tassi is, look at his legs. Like Chuck just said, look how big his torso is. Pete Carroll, I get it, he's old. He is standing up, essentially looking at Tassi's eyes. And Tassi looks like he could just crumble up Pete Carroll and stuff him in his pocket. You know what I mean? Like, he just carry him around, or the Step Brothers, where shove him up there, feel your curly hair, and every time you move, that feels a tickle. Like, that's what Laki Tassi could do with Pete Carroll. But my point is here, if he can get better, right? And if he's already showing you that he wants to learn and continuously get better, you can't teach the size of 6'6", 350. You can't teach the ability to be the athlete that he is, because he is a good athlete. But he's just learning how to play football. He's just learning how to do it. And if what the Raiders need is a big defensive tackle to take on double teams, a true nose, which is what this organization's been looking for at tackle, Laki Tassi, you put him out there, he's going to be a field, he's going to clog up some holes. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're doing tush push, you don't want to tush push with Laki Tassi right there. He's going to stop it. We got some more winners on the defensive side of the football here in just a moment. But again, huge shout out to our sponsor, Panda Sups. Use code GENTY for 25% off at pandasups.com. And if you're wondering, Mitch, what's the wedding stack that you've been using? These are the products that I am currently using right now, and I use them every single day. Now, if you want to go shop products for you, I encourage you to be able to do that, right? And I would want people to figure out what products work for them, because everybody is different. Every body is different. So the protein, the BCAAs, the creatine, and the Cuts fat burner, they're right now working for me because it's the plan that I have my body set up with. Also, some random Raiders news that just happened. The Titans were awarded Amari Burney off waivers, and then also Matthew Butler. He just got claimed as well to the Miami Dolphins. So kind of interesting connections there. My point is, Panda Sups has always done a great job. I also wanted to just fill you in on some of that news that just happened. This might be news to some of y'all, but if you spend more than $100 and you live in the United States at pandasups.com and use code GENTY, you're also going to get a shaker and a bag to take to the gym. I will say this is not a picture of me. I've been trying to get the Raiders owner of Panda Sups to put some pics of me on here, but I don't know if he's going to do it. The only pics that he has of me are from like 6 years ago, and I look very, very different. Let's go to number 2 here. It's linebacker Jalen Smith, and I'm surprised Jalen Smith's on this show, but he made the roster. He showed up on Friday to get his rookie minicamp training in, and, he's a 29-year-old going up against a bunch of 21, 22, 23, 24-year-old, 25-year-olds. And Smith looked healthy, and I think that that's always been the big question around Jalen, and whether or not is he healthy, because when he's healthy, he's got it upstairs. Like, he's a smart football player, and that's what made him so great at Notre Dame. Like, he was a good athlete at Notre Dame, but he had it up here, and he was a team captain. That's what made him one of the best linebackers that year before that just horrific knee injury. He moved well sideline to sideline, and anytime I hear knee injury, I ask people, how do they look going side to side? I was told that was good, and he must look pretty good because he ended up making the flipping roster, and the Raiders moved on from a young Amari Burney. That tells me that Jalen Smith did look good. I was also told he was vocal, he was encouraging teammates, and when you're 29 trying to make a roster, that's what you need to be able to do. The number one, though, the biggest winner on defense, Darian Porter, and I don't want to say that it's not close, but like to me, Jack Bech, Ashton Genty clearly separated themselves, and Darian Porter also clearly separated himself. And you could tell that he played wide receiver, which is one of the things that I was told over the weekend. And he's a really smart football player, and I loved his press conference that he gave earlier in the week. And you could tell that he is confident in his athletic ability, but he doesn't want to rely on his athletic ability. And he is another one of these freak athletes that just glides across the football field, and it looks effortless. His long strides, he just runs, and he just runs right by you. But if Porter can learn how to be an NFL corner, and I say that in the nicest way possible because he's just learning how to play corner. He was a wide receiver converted, but when he runs routes, you could kind of tell that he's thinking, all right, if I was a receiver, where would I be going here? And he can get to the point very quickly. And again, he's a good athlete, but because he just moves so well, very, very smart football player. And I think Raider fans should be very encouraged based on the information that I received on Darian Porter, based on the information that I received on Ashton Genty and Jack Bech. Sounds like we got three really good players to start the draft. Here are some other honorable mentions on defense. Wesley Steiner, he ended up making the roster, which I'm looking at that picture, and that's not Wesley Steiner. Yeah, Jonathan Sutherland. Yeah, I'll say Harvey and Steiner are mixed up. So Jafari Harvey, he's supposed to be this one. Wesley Steiner is supposed to be this guy here. Those are both winners. Jonathan Sutherland got to be a winner again. He ended up making the roster. But then, even though they did not participate, and, you know, this is like one of the mental battles that I go through from time to time. All right, shout out to Chugs. Yeah, Wesley Steiner, Jahari Hart. I was like, I know they're new, but, man, that doesn't look right. But even though Gaynor and Tommy Eichenberg did not participate in rookie minicamp, I still wanted to be able to put them on this show because of Amari Burney getting cut. And I don't know. I really don't think Jalen Smith honestly makes this roster. I think he's just brought in to be more competition. But I really, really thought that sounds like Devin White's going to be a starter, and it sounds like, Elandon Roberts is going to be a starter. And I thought it was going to be between Gaynor, Eichenberg, and Burney to kind of fight out for that number 3 linebacker spot. Now with Burney gone, that just opens the door for Gaynor and Eichenberg, and I do really think that those two are winners despite not even being at rookie minicamp. The losers are Amari Burney, who I just mentioned. He ended up getting claimed off waivers to the Titans, which shouldn't surprise anybody. That's where Dave Ziegler is at right now. Matthew Butler down in Miami, which that also doesn't really surprise me. I believe Butler actually last season spent a little bit of time in Miami. Also has got some of those Rob Leonard connections. Maybe Leonard was trying to help him out with some of his other ties to Miami to go down there. And then Brandon Smith also ended up being released by the Raiders on Monday. So one more time here, the Raiders rookie Raiders rookie minicamp winners on offense. Ashton Genty, Jack Bech, Caleb Rogers, Dante Thornton Jr., Tommy Mellott. And then on the defensive side of the football, Darian Porter, Jalen Smith, Lockie Tassi, J.J. Pegues, and Mello Dotson. These are also based off of the reports and based off the communications that I had with my people. The cool part about Raiders rookie minicamp is there's so much action going on that I bet you there's a lot of other players that deserve their flowers. I'm just simply going off the information that I received from my guys, from the players that I talked to at Raiders rookie minicamp. All right, y'all, before we get today's show on the road, Denver Nuggets, OKC Thunder. Who you got tonight? Series tied 2-2.
Ooh.
This is by far the most entertaining series.
Yeah.
Right now. It is. I don't care. It is. It's the best series. Do you think that the NBA champion...
Give me the Nuggets. I feel like people just disrespect Jokic so much because he is a boring, tall guy. And, the Nuggets are just this team that doesn't have a lot of juice in terms of, excitingness.
I agree.
Yeah, give me the Nuggets.
So, Chugs is going to go with the Nuggets. Also, Husker Raider. What up, Husk? You in, my man.
Husk,
I'm going to go with the Thunder. There's a part of me that thinks whoever wins this series is going to be an NBA champion.
Really?
I mean, do you think the Wolves are better than any of those two teams? Timberwolves? I don't. I think if Curry's healthy, the Warriors are the better team. I think the Thunder would beat the Wolves. I think the Nuggets would beat the Wolves.
But you think that they're going to win it all?
I mean, who on the East? Again, I don't watch basketball as much as some of these, but like Pacers, Knicks, do you think that they're beating any of those teams? I don't know. If it was up to me, I would say whoever wins this series wins the NBA title.
I think if the Knicks make it to the finals and they don't make any noise, Marsh is going to. I think
you can't be mad if your team makes it to the NBA finals.
I think Marsh will be more upset if they make it to the finals and get swept than if they didn't make the playoffs at all.
No.
I think so.
No.
Ask him.
Marsh. He's potted in. Can you get him? Real quick, I got a question for you. All right, would you rather not make the playoffs or get swept in the NBA finals? He's thinking about this a lot longer than I thought. He's still thinking about it.
Right? Dude, he's going to say not make the
playoffs. I don't even know if I'm going to get an answer. I'm going to be honest. Get swept.
Okay. But it was a long thought there.
I was going to say, that was a hard pause. You know, that was, get your last thoughts in. We need to get this segment done.
We are also 11 likes away, 10 likes away from 400.
I'll tell you what, if he was a 911 operator, that would not be good. Because that was a long pause. Let's go to Origami. You get a few beers in me, and that name would make me nervous to say. Hot take, Tyree Wilson and Jacorian Bennett will break out this season. Not watching sacks or INTs, but keep an eye on the quarterback pressures and PBUs. I kind of think Jacorian already broke out a little bit last season. I mean, Bennett was better than Nate Hobbs. He was. Jacorian Bennett was better than Nate Hobbs last season. He was better than Jack Jones. Bennett was by far the Raiders' best corner last season. And I don't give a shit what anybody says. Did he get banged up? The answer to that is yes. Tyree Wilson, I hope that you're right, man. Because if you told me, I'm not kidding you when I say this, if you told me at the end of the year the Raiders finished the year with the #1 overall defense, why? I would say Tyree Wilson broke out. Now, obviously, everybody else has got to stay healthy. But in my mind, if everybody stays healthy and they do what I think that they're going to do, and if Wilson plays like the player he was at Texas Tech before he had that foot surgery, look out, dude. Because he is an unbelievable alien of an athlete. And I think he's got to be able to figure it out. I think he's got to put it together a little bit. I think legitimately the #1 thing Wilson needs is confidence. And that's my interactions with Tyree. He knows that he's a great player. But I think when how's the way can I say this? Personally, I think Tyree Wilson his entire career has been the most athletically gifted player on the entire football field, and he's always been able to win based off of power, based off of his athletic ability that was given to him by God. Now he's going up against NFL players that also have that athletic ability, and unless you're going out there and putting in that extra 1, 5, 10%, you're going to quickly get yourself separated. And I think that is a humbling experience for some NFL players that have never had to deal with it before. And right now, Tyree Wilson is dealing with that humbling experience, right? Like, everybody watching the show that has been an athlete at some point has gone through that, right? Like, I can remember the first time I was playing college baseball and the kid I was pitching up against next to me was throwing 96. I'm like, all right, well, that's a little bit different, right? Like, I'm just not used to it. And then you just see a whole different level. Obviously, Tyree Wilson deserves to be in the NFL, but I think right now he's having that a little bit of a humbling experience of, shit, I'm not the best guy on the field. And that can be a little bit of a hard learning curve, and it can take your man card a little bit. What up, Patrick? What's your take on Kuntz this season? I expect Malcolm Kuntz to be somewhere around double-digit sacks, 8, 9, 10. I don't know if he's going to play as well as what he did the final 9 games of 2023, where he had 8 sacks in 9 seasons, but I do know that he is extremely motivated. He's had... Basically, he'll have like a whole year to be able to get that knee going. And ACLs, when you give yourself a whole year, that is a lot of time to be able to get back. They gave him a 1-year prove-it deal. He's fired up. He's motivated. He wants to be a Raider. I expect big things from Malcolm Kuntz, but I'm hoping the way that the Raiders use him is they allow him to be what he's really good at, and that's just being able to go out and get the quarterback. Like the way that I would use Malcolm is I would say, all right, Tonka Hemingway, all right, J.J. Pegues, Tyree Wilson. When there's running situations that might be pass plays, you guys are going to be in and you guys are going to, kind of rotate. When it is clear as day that they think that there's going to be a pass play, put Malcolm Kuntz out there on the outside and let him get some work in because he's not good really stopping the run. But you can't deny that he's not a really good player being able to go out and get the quarterback, keep that motor high. And when he's fresh and he's got that first step, he's tough to beat. And that's kind of how I would use him. I would use him as get him in there, definite passing situations. I'm not saying take him off the field in certain run situations, but with how deep our defensive line is, that's how I would use Malcolm Kuntz. I expect big things from him, though. What?
Dude, so I didn't know this was possible. Aaron Wilson just tweeted out the Ravens granted roster exemption for international player David Ojabo. Does that mean he's the International Pathway Program player?
Maybe.
Because he was a former second-round pick by then.
I'd have to read into it, but
I know he's foreign.
Granted roster exemption for international player David. Yeah, so roster exemption is what you get for the International Pathway Program, where you're allowed to carry an extra player. I don't see how that's even allowed, though. Like, how is that allowed after he's been drafted? Because the International Pathway Program was developed so players that don't have the opportunity to be noticed or scouted get the opportunity to be scouted.
Yeah.
At least it's something like that. Like, they created it because, like for David Ogoa in Nigeria, there's not as many NFL coaches out there in Nigeria, but if you're a freak athlete, they'll give you a shot. And I think it's just, again, it's their way to try to grow football in all these other countries, which is smart. It's a great business plan, but it's also a great opportunity because you never know what you can find. Jakob Johnson, the Raiders' old fullback. I get it, just a fullback, but he was an International Pathway Program player. He played for a while. Jordan Mailata is probably the best example.
I'm just confused because he was a former second-round pick, went to Michigan for a couple years.
I don't know.
But I read that as he's the new International Pathway Program player for him. They could keep 54 players on the roster.
We'll have to look into it. That's wild. Sounds like the Ravens just got great news. Also, final chance here to get in for our duck race. The last name that I saw was Husker Raider, and now we got a few more people that are getting in. My man Mo Shav. What up, Mo? Rustin Long, I see you, though. Rustin, you're going to get 2. I got Michael Bangs. Bro, is your last name Bangs? Michael Bangs. I'll tell you what, there's a lot of names that I've heard, and I'm not telling you have to do it, but a bang from Michael Bangs would be pretty flippin' iconic, man.
Yeah.
Luis Rod, you're in.
Yeah, apparently.
Yoda Jenkins, you're in.
Apparently, they did use that exemption, the International Pathway Program player, for David Ojabo, who they drafted in round 2.
That's wild. That's wild. $10 Venmo for a chance to win $115 here on the Raiders Report. We got 632 people in the building. If you haven't already, make sure you click that like button.
That's incredible because basically he got injured his rookie season.
Yep.
He would have been a first-round pick, slid to the second round, and I guess they're just using that loophole to continue to develop him and not give up on him and have an extra roster spot.
Sean Irish, you in? I mean, it is a smart thing for NFL teams to use.
If this gets allowed to be used,
there's going to be more teams that do it.
I was going to say, does that rise if you have a 4th-round grade on a guy
Absolutely.
And he's from another country?
Absolutely.
Draft him in round 3 so you can have 54 guys on your roster?
Yeah, I'm not kidding you. This is I think that you're going to see a major loophole here because it has to be. It almost makes me think of it's like fantasy football when you have like a flex position in a PPR league and it's like, oh, you can either do a running back, wide receiver, or tight end. Most of the time, like I try to put a wide receiver there because in my mind, that's going to be the most points. Now, again, it depends who you got, but not too many people are putting a tight end there.
I mean, this is crazy.
I agree. All right, Chugs, I'm going to send you the list. Sean Irish, I just got you. I see nobody else getting in. I don't know what race you want to do. I'm down for whatever.
Oh, yeah?
Down for whatever.
10
to win.
While I'm setting it up.
10 to win.
Funny enough, the first name on the list actually just super chatted as well.
What up, Rich? Chugs, let me get that PS username. You don't want this smoke, bro. Jew Eagle 96.
I'm not shitting you.
Jew Eagle 96.
Even though I've been playing mostly Marvel Rivals. And somebody hit me up. I can't remember who it was on PlayStation was like, let's play. And I said, yeah, let's do it. And then they just never hit me up again.
They forgot, dude. That's all right. It's going to happen from time to time. Jew Eagle 96.
I'm not shitting you.
There was one day I saw a van, and it had a Philadelphia Eagle with a Jewish star on the van. And I sent the picture to Chugs. True story. I was like, is this your PS?
It was great.
Is this you? I thought it was. Bangs T. Oh, my gosh. This is a real person. This is unbelievable. Your last name is actually Bangs.
Bangs. John Bangs. Nice to meet you.
Bangs. It's Bangs. Michael Bangs.
Richard Hogan. You know what? We'll answer this super chat while we do this race. In 3, 2, 1. Richard Hogan wants to know, sup guys, chances that Ramsey agrees to play safety.
I think if a team was willing to trade for him, then, if that's what they wanted him to do, sure. But I just really do not think that you're going to pay Jalen Ramsey $21.1 million to play a position that he's never played before. Do I think Ramsey could do it? Sure, I think it'd be interesting. But telling me that I got to pay him $21.1 million to do that, like I would say whatever team trades for Ramsey, they're going to allow him to play corner. And then if need be, because the last 3 years of his contract are not guaranteed, I could see Ramsey saying, you know what, in that 2026 year, all right, I'll drop back and I'll play safety. To stay on a team, to stay on a contract. We'll see. Richard Kelly, Natalie Cruz, Sean Irish. This one's coming down to it. Is Ron about to win? Ron Raspberry, the mod. So that little whatchamacallit?
He's the mod father.
He's got the claws, but it's also the wrench. The claws and the wrench. Shout out to Mr. Ron Raspberry with the dub. Ron, can you please confirm that you just received 120 doll hairs? Sent. Your payment has been sent.
So while that race was running, I actually saw something crazy on Twitter. Somebody ran through, or not ran, but somebody asked Grok, hey, with the Mavs getting the number 1 overall pick, what does Cooper Flagg look like in 5 years as a Dallas Maverick?
Okay.
Insane.
That looks like, we were talking about the guy from Space Jam. This looks like when he gets pumped up with the air. That's what that looks like. I forget what that guy's name was, but wow. Is that actually Cooper Flagg that they made bigger, or
yes.
That's insane. If you've been wondering where all Teja's weight went,
it went to Cooper Flagg.
It went to Cooper Flagg. Coming up next here on the show,
Ron got it as well.
Ron, you got it. Got the bag. Love to see it. Reminder, you guys are going to see Jeremy Chugs and I tomorrow, 4 p.m. Eastern Time, 1 p.m. Pacific. The only way that I'll go live earlier is if I get all 18 weeks of the Raiders schedule before then, which it might happen. It might not. I know we've gotten the schedule before the Raiders have released it the last 2 or 3 years, but we'll just be on the show tomorrow, chopping it up free agency style, getting some questions in, and when the schedule leaks come in, we will also break all of those down tomorrow on the show.
The only game we might have is Giants at Raiders week 1. We'll see if that one's true.
Yeah.
But if the leaks are correct, the Raiders could be playing the New York Football Giants week 1, either Russell Wilson or Jackson Dart. But either way, Marsh is going effing down.
I did get a text about 2 hours ago. I sent it to Harry that said that the Raiders and Bears could be the Week 2 game, which if you told me Giants-Bears is how we start our season, that's fun. That's fun. That could be 0-2, 2-0, 1-1. That's what's fun about it. All right, y'all. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday. Appreciate everyone that tuned in today. Ron Raspberry, congratulations on the $120 that you won. And make sure that you're tuning in tomorrow, Thursday, and Friday, 4 p.m. Eastern Time, 1 p.m. Pacific. Peace out, y'all.